Okay, in this video, I'm going to show you where to set your stop losses, more or less. Okay, so if, for instance, now we were in Bitcoin and we're somewhere here, okay, we would set your stop losses. Let me get a box. Okay, you'd set your stop losses underneath this line. Okay, not directly underneath the line because you could have a wick down underneath it and then it just goes straight back up. So it hits all your stop losses and then just goes back straight back up. So you want to give it a little bit of a gap and you put your stop losses about there. Okay, anywhere about there. So you would have hit your stop losses there when it came down. And then obviously you saved yourself that much money. So, but I mean, if you bought Bitcoin, say for instance, when it broke out, say at the bottom here, you're not going to mind selling or putting your stop loss over there and didn't take profit there because the amount of the difference is also about 3%. Okay, so it all depends what type of trading you do. In long-term trading, you didn't even need to put stop losses in. Then you would put your stop losses further down underneath the big support. So you would then put, for instance, if you're doing long-term trading and you don't want to, your biggest issue would be at the moment, if we go to the daily, okay, you don't want to be making a lower low. So in case you would put your stop losses over there. If you're long-term trading, if you've been holding this since, like, say, $9,000, you don't want it to go lower than that because then it means it's going to go in a downtrend. So you put your stop losses there. Okay, you can also put your stop losses under major support lines. So obviously here, but you would leave a gap before you put your stop losses in. Let's go. So about there, for instance, which is lucky in a sense because we know how far we've done. But you'd put it underneath your support lines, and then obviously you'd also put it about there if you didn't mind risking 5% of Bitcoin. Okay, so for your altcoins, for instance, let's go here. Let's say Flame. Okay, we know that the Fibonacci retracement was the 618, which is this level here. Okay, so if you had bought at the bottom and you didn't mind, you were long-term holding this coin, you would put your stop losses underneath that line. So you would put it on the 618 Fibonacci line, and then you would then put your stop losses underneath here, so that if it went lower, it would get stopped out and then obviously take it further. Okay, let's say, for instance, you want to buy in now. Okay, so you will either buy on the breakout of this falling line, or you'll buy at this support, because obviously you can see it's been a great support. So you'll buy your support. So if you bought your support, you would then put your stop losses underneath that. Okay, so leave a little bit. So if it gaps down a little bit, it doesn't hit your stop losses. So you'll put it somewhere over there. If, for instance, now you're going to buy the breakout of this line, it goes up, it breaks out there. If you bought the breakout, okay, you will put your stop losses there. Okay, but just remember, always leave a gap, so that if you do get stopped out over there and it goes down to the bottom, okay, so you could save yourself 5%. If it goes to the bottom, but obviously if it goes through that, then you've saved yourself a lot more. Okay, the same thing as if you didn't buy the breakout and you're buying the retest. Say, for instance, your coin went out and then came back down here and then took off there, and you bought at the retest, then you'd also have your stop loss just underneath that. Okay, also just always remember that there could be a wick in or a wick out. Okay, you can see this wicks in, wicks out. Okay, so for instance, like if you bought this breakout over here and you had your stop losses over there, you got stopped out there. I mean, yes, you lost maybe 1 or 2%. You saved yourself 12%. Okay, and you would have bought there back at support because that was a fake out. Okay, so that's why it's always good to buy the retest. So when you get a confirmed retest, that's when you buy in. But if you do buy the breakout, put your stop losses underneath because you can save yourself 10, 20%. Let's see. So that goes for any scenario. So like this one, for instance, I gave a signal for this by the breakout of this. So you'd have your stop losses in there. As it's going up, you put your stop losses. So you move your stop losses. So once it's, say, for instance, there, you can move your stop loss then there. That's so wide, somewhere there. And then obviously as it goes higher, you can then move your stop losses up so that you can guarantee your profit. So it's always good to trail up your stop losses with the price of the coin so that if it does go down and you're sleeping, for instance, then it can get stopped out and you don't mind because you've made your profit. Okay, so for instance, with this one, if you had bought the bottom of this wedge, you would then put your stop losses over there so that if it breaks down lower, you get stopped out and it would come down. Let's have a look at this one. Okay, so this one I gave when it was down there by the retest. You would have bought the retest over there. And then obviously as you're going up, you would then put your stop losses higher. But this, it was very, very quick, very sudden. So if you had had time to put in your stop losses, you would have moved it up. If you didn't, you wouldn't be out because your stop losses would have been below this. Say, for instance, your stop losses would have been, your stop loss would have been, say, for instance, somewhere there. Okay. And you would still be in this trade. So if you're doing this coin for long term, you would be in this trade still. So you would still be up 62%, 63%. Okay, so right now, for instance, this would have been a good buy. You got the breakout or the retest, and then you would have put your stop loss there. Okay, so obviously now it's broken out. Okay, and it hasn't come further down. You would have bought the retest, and now you can start moving your stop losses higher. Okay, if you are doing future trades or margin trading and you want to short the market, obviously your stop losses will be above your momentum lines. So if it breaks out higher, you could have a wick up. That's why you always give that gap. Okay, so then you'd have your stop losses above there. Okay, if yeah, so you take a short there and then you put your stop loss there. If you're taking your longs at the bottom, then obviously you have your stop losses over there, just a bit down. Okay. Okay, so just remember in cryptocurrency, there is always, you get your bull traps and your bear traps. Okay, so you'll get your wicks out and in. They trigger all the stop losses or whether on the bear traps and the bull traps. So just be cautious of that. So always leave a gap for your above where your stop loss is. So if it does wick in or out of the pattern, it doesn't set off your stop losses. And I hope you understand where to put your stop losses, and to remember always trail up your stop losses. As you're making profits, keep the stop losses going up.